The year was 1945. The world was engulfed in the flames of World War II, a conflict of unprecedented scale and brutality. For 6 long years, nations had clashed in a global struggle that had claimed millions of lives and left countless others scarred. On the battlefields of Europe, the Allied forces had finally vanquished Nazi Germany, liberating a continent from the grip of tyranny. Yet in the Pacific, the war raged on. The Empire of Japan, fueled by a potent mix of nationalism and militarism, fought with fierce determination, refusing to surrender. The United States, deeply invested in the Pacific theater, grappled with the daunting task of subduing a tenacious enemy. Traditional warfare had proven costly, both in terms of human life and resources. The invasion of Japanese home islands, a strategy considered by American military planners, promised a bloodbath of unimaginable proportions. It was against this backdrop of escalating conflict and mounting casualties that a fateful decision was made, a decision that would forever alter the course of human history. The United States, armed with a weapon of unimaginable destructive power, chose to unleash the atom bomb upon Japan. This decision, born out of a desperate desire to end the war swiftly and spare American lives, remains one of the most controversial acts in human history. It is a decision that continues to spark debate and soul-searching even today, more than 7 decades later. The decision to unleash the atomic bomb was not one taken lightly. It weighed heavily on the shoulders of President Harry S. Truman and his advisors, a group of men tasked with navigating the complexities of a world at war. They were faced with a monumental decision that would not only impact the immediate outcome of the conflict, but also shape the future of international relations and warfare. The United States, still reeling from the human cost of the conflict, yearned for a swift and decisive end to the bloodshed. The nation had endured years of relentless fighting, and the toll on both soldiers and civilians was immense. The prospect of a protracted and bloody invasion of Japan, with its potential for millions of casualties on both sides, loomed large in their calculations. Military strategists were acutely aware of the formidable defenses that awaited them on the Japanese mainland. Proponents of the atomic bomb argued that its use, while undeniably horrific, was a necessary evil. They believed that the bomb's unprecedented destructive power could serve as a powerful deterrent, forcing Japan to surrender and thus saving countless lives in the long run. They believed that the sheer destructive power of the weapon, demonstrated in chilling detail at the Trinity test in the New Mexico desert just weeks earlier, would shock Japan into submission. The test had shown the bomb's capability to unleash devastation on an unimaginable scale. They argued that it was the only way to avoid a protracted and bloody land invasion, a scenario that would result in the loss of countless American lives, as well as Japanese civilian casualties on an unimaginable scale. The stakes were incredibly high, and the pressure to find a swift resolution was immense. Opponents of the bomb, however, were horrified by its potential. They saw it as a Pandora's box that, once opened, could never be closed. The ethical implications of using such a weapon were profound and deeply troubling. They argued that its use represented a dangerous escalation in warfare, crossing a moral threshold that humanity should never breach. The idea of inflicting such catastrophic damage on civilian populations was abhorrent to many. Some scientists involved in the Manhattan Project, the top-secret program that had developed the bomb, expressed deep reservations about its use. They had dedicated years of their lives to this project, but the reality of its potential for destruction weighed heavily on their consciences. They argued for a demonstration of the bomb's power in a remote location, hoping to convince Japan to surrender without resorting to its use against civilian targets. This, they believed, would be a more humane approach, sparing innocent lives while still showcasing the bomb's might. The debate raged on, fueled by a potent mix of fear, uncertainty, and a desperate desire for peace. Advisors and officials were torn between the immediate tactical advantages and the long-term moral and ethical consequences. In the end, the proponents of the bomb prevailed. The arguments for a swift end to the war, coupled with the desire to avoid further American casualties, ultimately swayed the decision. President Truman, facing an agonizing choice between continuing a costly war and unleashing a weapon of unprecedented destruction, opted for the latter. It was a decision made under immense pressure, with the weight of the world resting on his shoulders. It was a decision that would forever alter the course of human history, ushering in the atomic age and casting a long shadow over the future of warfare. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki marked a turning point, demonstrating the devastating power of nuclear weapons and setting the stage for the Cold War and the nuclear arms race that would follow. The story of the atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki began years earlier, far from the battlefields of the Pacific, in the clandestine laboratories of the Manhattan Project. This top-secret endeavor, launched in 1939 by the United States government, brought together some of the brightest scientific minds from across the globe, all working tirelessly towards a single, daunting goal: to harness the power of the atom and create the world's first atomic bomb. Driven by a mixture of scientific curiosity and a growing fear of Nazi Germany's own nuclear ambitions, these scientists embarked on a journey into the unknown. They toiled relentlessly, often in secrecy and isolation, pushing the boundaries of human knowledge and grappling with the immense technical challenges of splitting the atom.
From the sprawling research facilities at Los Alamos, New Mexico, to the production plants at Oak Ridge, Tennessee and Hanford, Washington, a vast network of scientists, engineers and technicians worked day and night to bring this terrifying new weapon to life. The project, shrouded in secrecy and driven by the urgency of wartime, represented a massive investment of resources and manpower. It was a testament to the technological prowess of the United States and its allies, a testament to their determination to win the war at any cost.
As the war in Europe raged on and the conflict in the Pacific intensified, the pressure on the scientists of the Manhattan Project mounted. They knew that the fate of the world might very well hinge on their success. By the summer of 1945, after years of tireless effort and billions of dollars in investment, the impossible had been achieved. The Manhattan Project had yielded its deadly fruit: 2 atomic bombs, one fueled by uranium and the other by plutonium, each capable of unleashing unimaginable destruction upon the world. The stage was set for a dramatic and terrifying new chapter in human history. The scientists, aware of the monumental implications of their work, often grappled with the moral and ethical consequences of their creation. Many of them questioned whether the pursuit of such a powerful weapon was justified, even in the context of war. Despite these internal conflicts, the urgency of the war effort and the fear of Nazi Germany's potential advancements kept them focused on their mission. The design and construction of the bombs required unprecedented levels of precision and innovation. Every component had to be meticulously tested and retested to ensure the bombs would function as intended. As the final preparations for the first test were made, the tension among the scientists was palpable. On July 16, 1945, at the Trinity test site in New Mexico, the first atomic bomb was successfully detonated. The explosion created a blinding flash of light and a massive mushroom cloud, signaling the dawn of the atomic age. The scientists' reactions were a mix of awe, relief, and a sobering realization of the destructive power they had unleashed. With the success of the Trinity test, the stage was set for the deployment of the bombs on Japan, forever changing the course of history. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki brought an end to World War II, but at an unimaginable cost in human lives and suffering. Today, the legacy of the Manhattan Project serves as a stark reminder of the devastating potential of nuclear weapons and the importance of striving for peace. As the Manhattan Project reached its terrifying conclusion, the Allied powers gathered in Potsdam, Germany, to decide the fate of a vanquished Germany and chart a course for the post-war world. The conference was a pivotal moment, bringing together leaders like Truman, Churchill, and Stalin, who were determined to shape the future of global politics and ensure lasting peace. It was here, against the backdrop of a shattered Europe, that the Potsdam Declaration was issued, a final ultimatum to the Empire of Japan, demanding its unconditional surrender. The declaration was a critical document representing the unified stance of the Allies and their resolve to end the war swiftly and decisively. The declaration, signed by the United States, the United Kingdom, and China, outlined the terms of surrender and warned of the dire consequences that awaited Japan should it refuse to lay down its arms. It was a stark message, emphasizing the need for Japan to accept the terms to avoid further devastation. It promised prompt and utter destruction if Japan continued its war effort, a thinly veiled threat alluding to the awesome power of the atomic bomb, though it was not explicitly mentioned. The Allies hoped that the sheer weight of this threat would compel Japan to surrender and prevent further bloodshed.
Despite the stark warning, Japan, fueled by a potent mix of nationalism and a deep-seated belief in its own invincibility, refused to comply with the Allied demands. The Japanese government, driven by a warrior ethos and a desire to maintain its honor, chose to continue the fight. The Japanese leadership, deeply divided and clinging to the hope of a negotiated settlement that would preserve their empire, ultimately chose to ignore the Potsdam Declaration. This internal conflict and the desire to avoid unconditional surrender led to a tragic miscalculation. This fateful decision sealed the fate of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, setting in motion a chain of events that would culminate in unimaginable destruction. The cities, once bustling with life, were now on the brink of annihilation. The stage was set for a tragedy of unprecedented scale. The world would soon witness the devastating power of the atomic bomb, a weapon that would forever change the course of history and the nature of warfare.
The world held its breath, bracing for the impact of a weapon that had the potential to reshape the very fabric of human existence. The anticipation and fear were palpable as everyone awaited the outcome of this monumental decision. The countdown to Hiroshima had begun, the final preparations were underway, and the world stood on the precipice of a new and terrifying era.